समझ नहीं आ रहा अपने सैलरी इंक्रीमेंट का क्या करूं।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स के एसआईपी का टॉप अप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
क्या? समझ में नहीं आया।
बेटा इतना क्या सोच रहा है? अपने म्यूचुअल फंड्स का एसआईपी टॉपअप करा ले। दिस इज द राइट टाइम।
अब समझा।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme related documents carefully.
On precisely these dates, February 19, 20, and 21, 27 years ago, the two prime ministers of India and Pakistan, Atal Bihari Vajpayee and Nawaz Sharif, made a dramatic bid for peace, but they were tripped by Pakistan's army in the course of time, within the next few months, because Kargil happened then. I had subsequently said in an article that this won't be different for Imran. Imran, in fact, never even tried to make peace. He lost his way, Imran being Imran, and now we know where he's ended up. Unfortunately, at least for a cricketer, for that to happen. The day Imran took oath as Prime Minister of Pakistan, I had said that was almost coinciding with General Ziaul Haq's 30th death anniversary. I had said that it was the ideal time for me to tell this still mostly untold story of a dramatic attempt at peacemaking by the elected leaders of our two countries. And when I wrote this, I had said that one of the two leaders involved had just passed away and the other was incarcerated in a brutal Rawalpindi prison. That was Nawaz Sharif. That's the Pakistan serial jailing of prime ministers. Another part player in the saga, in fact, I had confessed, and it's a confession, is this writer. This first person second draft, therefore, is also in the nature of a confession. It is something in which I'm not sure I should have got involved, but sometimes things happen serendipitously, or you are fated to be in some situation, and that's what happened with me also in this case. Mia Nawaz Sharif it was, who won his second term in 1997. In the first term, he was dismissed by Ghulam Isa Khan or by the Pakistani establishment. Shortly after him, the Atal Bihari Vajpayee-led NDA government took charge in India. India-Pakistan relations went into deep freeze with Pokhran II and Pakistan's tit-for-tat in Chagai in an ironical nuclear jugalbandi. By the last quarter of 1998, however, impatience was evident on both sides. Both leaders wanted a thaw, but there was too much mutual distrust within the system. Even the suggestion of a daily Lahore bus service was entangled in bureaucratic quibbling. It was then, in early winter, that a letter from Pakistan arrived in my mail. Postmarks showed that the envelope marked from the Prime Minister's office, it was in the Prime Minister's office stationery in Pakistan, it had been in transit for several weeks. It also hadn't travelled well, which was understandable. It had possibly been steamed open and resealed by many competing agencies, which are unlikely to have seen a letter from the Prime Minister of Pakistan in ordinary snail mail before. It was harmless, just a warm, if belated response to a note from me months earlier asking for an interview. I called Nawaz Sharif back because he had given me the name of his ADC. So I called back and left a message with him and asked if I could visit Pakistan for the interview. There was some banter. I said, what's the point of interviews if our prime ministers could not even get anything moving? Forget big things, I said. You people can't even get that bus moving. Nawaz Sharif muttered the usual complaints with hidebound diplomats. I said, still in the light-hearted exchange in Punjabi, why don't you announce the bus in the interview and invite our Prime Minister to Pakistan on the first bus? This was said for a lark. Nawaz Sharif somehow liked the idea. But he asked, what if I, as in Nawaz Sharif, what if I invite him, Vajpayee, and Vajpayee declines? It will look really bad for me, he said. I said, I will check, which I did. Vajpayee liked the idea too. Only thing he said, I should see him on my return and not publish the interview until then. In the interview at his Lahore home, often interrupted by cricket when Sachin Tendulkar battled back pain to play his brilliant innings that almost won the Chennai test from Pakistan, Nawaz Sharif kept his promise. Start the bus, he said, and invited Vajpayee to be on it. He will ensure a welcome, he said, that history will remember. I came back and met Vajpayee. He asked me to hold it for a day. He wanted the interview to be published on the day he was landing early morning in Lucknow. He wanted to make sure that the reporter asked him a question on this Nawaz Sharif invitation, which he said he would publicly accept before the MEA came up with its usual doubts. The rest is well recorded history. Whether I should have got involved in this or not, I don't know. As I told you, this was serendipity. The rest is well known history. The visit happened soon after to much drama. There were some discordant notes, particularly with Pakistan Army Chief General Pervez Musharraf initially refusing to salute him in welcome. Vajpayee walked up the steps of Minare, Pakistan to say a stable and prosperous Pakistan was in India's best interest. That is not something another Indian Prime Minister will say soon. You can be sure of that. History, it seemed, was being made at that point. It was heady to have been a part of it, sort of fortuitously. Somebody today might say the interview was fixed. Frankly, it wasn't. It started as a joke, but even if so, it was to good purpose. It was also a terrific news break. The story doesn't end yet. While the two prime ministers were having their peace fest, unknown to both of them, the Pakistani army was infiltrating miles across a wide frontier in Kargil and digging in. By mid-May, the first clashes took place. On 26th May, India flung in air power. 2 MiGs were lost to shoulder-fired missiles. On the next day, maybe one was lost to a technical failure or an engine failure. A third, a lumbering Canberra on photo reconnaissance mission, took a missile hit on one of its engines but was fortunately nursed back to base safely. Nobody was prepared for this. The phone rang in my hotel room in Mumbai early at 6:30 a.m. Now, I'm not used to receiving phone calls at 6:30, nor do I wake up at that hour. Nevertheless, the man said, "The Prime Minister wants to speak with you." This was, in any case, the pre-spam call era, and I know the 2301 numbers. Those are usually government landline numbers in Delhi, central government landline numbers in Delhi. He sounded concerned. Vajpayee sounded concerned on the phone. "Ye kya kar rahe hain mitra aapka? What is this friend of yours doing?" he asked. He said everybody was taken by surprise. How can mere mujahideen have missiles? And all this while, Pakistan's army chief was in China. So what the hell is going on? Can you ask your friend? I left a message at the usual number, the ADC's number in Islamabad. The call came later that night. Nawaz Sharif sounded as perplexed as Vajpayee. And I quote from him, "You can tell him I won't betray him. मैं उनको धोखा नहीं दूंगा," he said. "I was told yesterday there were some routine clashes on the LOC," he said, "and today they reported air violations." He said to emphasize his point. This is Nawaz Sharif speaking. I am also surprised, saying he would want to engage with Vajpayee. Vajpayee and Brajesh Mishra called me on my return to New Delhi. They said our people had intercepted some phone conversations between General Musharraf and his deputy, confirming that Kargil was purely a military operation. Would I, therefore, go to Islamabad again on the pretext of an interview and tell Nawaz Sharif about the tapes? By this time, I was chastened. "I cannot and I should not," I politely told them. The earlier interview was a genuine scoop and the bus ride a collateral benefit or a collateral consequence, whatever you call it. But this was going too far from journalism. I wasn't going to go again and get caught in this diplomacy actively. They understood and appreciated my point. They asked another editor, a former one, to do this, R.K. Mishra, then with the Observer Research Foundation, which is now the famous ORF. He made several trips to Islamabad following this. He even delivered to Nawaz Sharif the tapes of those intercepted conversations as evidence. My story, or my extra journalistic adventure, had fully ended. Vajpayee led India to victory in Kargil. He turned the betrayal to his advantage and emerged with his stature greatly elevated. Nawaz Sharif, who was forced to sue for peace through US President Bill Clinton, wasn't so fortunate. This led to a breakdown in his relationship with his army, a coup within months, imprisonment, and long exile. With this ended the most determined effort by an elected Pakistani leader to take foreign and strategic, especially India policies, away from the army. It is unlikely, I had then said, that such an opportunity would arise again. In fact, it sort of arose again when Nawaz Sharif became Prime Minister a third time, and this time again with a large majority, but once again he was thwarted, not allowed to complete his 5 years. it is very improbable, I had said, to see Imran gathering the courage to challenge his army ISI establishment for real power. The fact is that he did challenge them, but that was for power within Pakistani politics, and that's where he lost out and is now, I hate to use that expression, is being made to rot in jail. And it's doubly sad that cricketers, cricket stars, former cricket captains from across the world have signed a letter in his support on humane grounds and by way of fellow cricketers' camaraderie, while Pakistani cricketers and Pakistani captains, including those who played with him and who owe so much of their cricketing fame to Imran Khan, they haven't had the courage to do so. There are many lessons in that episode, the bus ride in Kargil, for Pakistan's prime ministers as and when they come and go. First, trying to make peace with India is risky and definitely suicidal to do it over the generals' heads. Second, that no elected prime minister in Pakistan has been allowed by the same establishment to complete a full term yet. That was 1999. Now we are in 2026. It hasn't happened yet. And third, that every elected prime minister has ended up exiled, jailed, killed, or, as in the case of Benazir Bhutto, all of the three. Imran, I had then said, has taken risks in life, in cricket, relationships, marriage, and politics. But the basic power equation in this country has not changed. It still hasn't changed. If anything, it has reversed whatever democratic easing might have taken place in the previous decades. If at all any elected prime minister tries to make peace, it will be because his army told him to do so, not in defiance of the army. And now with Munir sort of chaperoning Shahbaz Sharif wherever he goes, I am Field Marshal, meet my prime minister, this is an impossibility. In any case, even if new beginnings were made, I will never again be drawn into it. It is tempting but tricky, even if it might be a fine story to tell later. There are 4 reasons I decided to tell this story now. One was Vajpayee's departure. That was the first time when I spoke about it. Second, Nawaz Sharif's imprisonment then. Then Imran's swearing in, and now Imran's arrest, because it's the same phenomenon that's been reaffirmed. And also because 25 years have passed since, because it's from our history, our lived experiences that we learn. I would say that over time, some Pakistani leaders made serious efforts at finding some peace with India. It was Nawaz Sharif twice and it was Musharraf once, but each one of them was thwarted by their system, basically their army establishment, which cannot afford to have peace with India. And now that phenomenon stares us in the face. In fact, if at all, India can now have a much more realistic view of Pakistan, that how Pakistan behaves, how Pakistan responds will not depend on who gets elected as a leader, unless the mind of the Pakistani army changes, which seems like a near impossibility now in the foreseeable future. There's going to be no substantive improvement. And if you see it from the Pakistani point of view, in each one of these situations, they had some possibility of getting a deal, a bargain with India. But as time passes, as they fail each time, their negotiating position gets weaker and their hope of getting something, a consolation prize somehow over Kashmir, something about the status, open borders, etc., etc., all of that has now gone up in smoke.